Here we go again. My brother decides to abruptly take himself off of his medication, followed by a rampage. This begins after his last appointment with his psychiatrist. He's been hoping she'd lower the dosage of his medication, but she doesn't even entertain the idea. Ralph doesn't want to be on any medication at all. He can't stand the side effects. The nervousness, the restlessness, the claustrophobia, the constant fatigue. But the medication is what stands between him and another of many hospitalizations over the last 30 years. His last hospitalization this past summer was very serious. Once again, he had refused to take his medication, and as usual, his thoughts became disordered, his speech turned into word salad, and he needed to be admitted. His frustration with the psychiatrist's decision to not even lower his dosage has led to this meltdown that so far has lasted 10 days, with an emotional outbursts and challenging behaviors of all kinds, including refusing his biweekly injection of medication. My brother Ralph and I were born 14 months apart, raised side by side. We intimately share a childhood and our very own special language. There are gestures and sounds in this unspoken language that speaks volumes to us like poetry. It's not all been poetic, though. The sibling bond is a complicated one. Ours is further complicated by my brother's dual issues, mental illness and high-functioning autism. The turning point of our lives occurs 30 years ago. My brother is 21, and I'm 22, and I'm living in Philadelphia. My mother calls. I've been privy to calls related to crisis and conflict with my brother before, but this call is like no other. "I think your brother is having a nervous breakdown," she says with alarm in her voice I've never heard before. "What? Is he there with you? Put him on the phone," I insist. Ralph takes the receiver and starts talking, but he's not making sense. My heart clenches for the first time in a way it will many, many more times. Time freezes. I'm in shock. I call a dear friend who'd been a therapist. "You need to get him to the hospital for treatment," she says without hesitation. My parents are too emotionally drained from everything leading up to this moment. I realize I need to be the one to take charge of things. My boyfriend races me 3.5 hours north to Kingston. I arrive and start making phone calls. There are no beds available in the psych ward for another whole day. I'm the one who stays up all night with Ralph, soothing and comforting him as his mind races and he goes in and out of reality. He tells me he's scared and doesn't understand what's happening. I put on a brave face and I tell him everything will be okay. I'm scared too, but I make it my duty to be strong for the both of us. The next day, I'm the one in the hospital conference room talking with the doctor as Ralph goes through the intake process. This hospitalization marks a major detour on the road of our lives. There is never anything straightforward or simple about Ralph's mental illness. He never really fits any cookie-cutter mold of a diagnosis. For me, Ralph becomes an intricate human puzzle needing to be solved. 17 years later, I'm the one to first discover a critical missing piece of that puzzle. I discover that Ralph is on the autism spectrum. What a time I have convincing all the professionals working with Ralph that I'm right. His official diagnosis finally comes at the age of 43, Asperger's syndrome. This is just the beginning of over a decade's worth of fierce, tireless advocating while trying to create a better quality of life for him. I often feel that I have to work double time because of the lack of understanding about this particular dual diagnosis, mental illness and autism. I don't always feel heard and respected for what I know. Is it because I don't have a PhD or an MD after my name? I sometimes wonder if it's because I'm a woman. Or is it because I'm dealing with a mental health system that's not fully equipped to support those on the autism spectrum? Is it my intensity brought on by weariness and frustration from hitting too many dead ends and roadblocks while advocating to the best of my ability? Maybe it's all of the above. But institutions and medical professionals aren't my only obstacles. Often I have to fight with my brother himself on his own behalf when the endless cycle of trying to remedy side effects is exhausting for him and he takes himself off of all medication. He doesn't recognize that the benefits of medicine outweigh the costs and keep him out of the hospital. But you see, we're dealing with both mental illness and autism, which complicates things. He takes things very literally and often out of context. Now, within weeks of Ralph going back on meds, I am actually the one who unintentionally triggers a response that has him refusing his injection yet again. I'm with him in his apartment and trying to make some healthy changes in his diet. I know a lot about autism and the potential good of dietary intervention and supplementation. It's worth a try. My eye happens to catch a gallon-sized jug of his favorite brand tea. I read the label. High fructose corn syrup and several different preservatives glare out at me. I explained to Ralph their negative effects on the brain and body. He burst out in a fit of anger. You're so concerned about that, but you don't care about all the harmful side effects of my medicine and what they can cause. His rant continues. My heart sinks. I'm stunned. I didn't see this one coming. I've just stepped on a loaded emotional landmine. There are the genuine side effects that Ralph experiences, and then there's the yardstick-long list of potential side effects that comes in every box of the injectable form of his medicine, the ones he relentlessly perseverates about. He takes this list very literally and very seriously. I'm at a loss. Why can't he see how it helps him? When will he realize what going off medicine costs him and the people who love him? There's no reasoning with him. Amidst a barrage of his flying bits of emotion, I do something practical in an attempt to refocus his attention. I show him how to make his own iced herbal tea. To myself, I question the difference I can make at all and consider the toll the stress takes on my own health and well-being. It's exhausting to always have to rearrange the emotional furniture of our exchanges so as not to set off any trigger points. I'm frustrated. I'm tired. I'm 30 years tired. I don't want to put this on Ralph, though. I can tell he's very tired and weary, too, after all of these years. I want him to know that I love him and that he's very important to me. He's my only sibling. But it's so hard for him to read my feelings and derive perspective. It's much easier for me to empathize with his experience than it is for him to empathize with mine because of his autism. My compassion for my brother's plight chokes me sometimes. Is it fair for me to speak of my own woes, sorrows, and frustrations? My brother has a genuine condition, chemical and neurological challenges layered with other issues from years of not being understood and getting what he ideally needed as support. My grief about this runs deep. I struggle with acknowledging his life's impact on mine. I invite Ralph to go to a cafe with me in his neighborhood. I continue trying to help him get perspective about his medication issues. At one point, he looks over my shoulder and says, I'm like that man walking down the path in that picture over there. I glance back and see an entire gallery wall of photographs, all by the same artist. I see the one he's talking about. But is he stopped or is he continuing to walk down the path, Ralph wants to know. Suddenly, I'm flooded with insight and inspiration. Why, of course. Ralph's personal language is visual. He thinks in pictures. Many people on the autism spectrum do. So I toss the question back to him. So which is it? Are you stopped or are you continuing to walk down the path? I'm continuing to walk, he says, but we can't see where the path leads or how things will turn out. That's right, I tell him, we can't. But we need to have faith that things will turn out for the best. We need to be determined that they will, while also being flexible about how they will. Then sometimes new possibilities and solutions come when we least expect them. I can see Ralph is in deep reflection. Ralph calls me after his next appointment with a psychiatrist. She's offered me 3 choices of medication, he tells me. I chose an oral medication. It's a newer one and supposedly has lesser side effects. I'm trying, Tina. I want this to work. I love you, Tina. I appreciate all that you do for me. I'm really trying. I know you are, Ralph. I love you too very much, unconditionally. And ironically, today just happens to be National Siblings Day.